In 2015, a group of friends, Arjun Kapoor, his wife Aditi Joy, Rohan Mehra, and several others, decided to go on an adventurous camping trip deep into the heart of the Jim Corbett Forest. The group had been close for many years, bound by memories of school and college life, and they hoped the trip would be a chance to reconnect with nature and each other. They set up camp in a secluded spot, surrounded by towering trees and the sounds of the wild. However, the excitement quickly turned to horror when, one freezing morning, Aditi Joy was found dead in her tent. Her body was discovered by Arjun, her husband, who was devastated. She was lying in a pool of blood, and it was clear she had been brutally murdered. The group's shock turned into confusion and panic when they realized that Rohan Mehra, Aditi's ex-lover, had gone missing during the night. The eerie silence of the forest added to the growing tension as the friends tried to understand what had happened. Was Rohan involved in Aditi's death? Did someone else from the group have a motive? The mystery deepened when the police arrived and started investigating the crime scene. With emotions running high and suspicion falling on everyone, the once joyful camping trip became a nightmare. Aditi Joy was born on June 15, 1988, in the small town of Jitpur. She came from a middle-class family that placed a high value on education and hard work. From a young age, Aditi had a natural talent for art and creativity, which set her apart from her peers. She loved drawing, painting, and designing, and these passions led her to pursue a degree in graphic design at Delhi University. Throughout her time at university, Aditi was known for her bold ideas and her ability to think outside the box. After graduating, Aditi moved to Mumbai, the city of dreams, where she worked as a freelance graphic designer. Though the competitive environment was tough at first, her determination and skill helped her secure clients and projects in the advertising and media industries. Her career gradually took off, and she gained a reputation for her unique style and innovative designs. Despite her professional success, Aditi often felt a sense of emptiness in her personal life. She struggled to find balance between her creative ambitions and her desire for stability. This inner conflict played a significant role in the choices she made later in life. Arjun Kapoor was born in 1986 in Lucknow, where he grew up in a traditional and disciplined household. His family had a long history of civil service, with many members working in government positions. However, Arjun chose a different path and decided to study engineering. After completing his degree, he moved to Mumbai to work as a project manager for a well-known construction company. Arjun was methodical, practical, and responsible, characteristics that made him successful in his career. He was also a calm and grounded individual, known for his reliability and dedication. While Arjun excelled professionally, his personal life was more straightforward. He believed in traditional values, such as loyalty, commitment, and building a stable life. When he met Aditi, her vibrant personality and artistic flair intrigued him. She was everything he wasn't: spontaneous, creative, and free-spirited. Despite their differences, Arjun felt a strong connection to Aditi and believed they complemented each other. He admired her passion for her work, and Aditi appreciated his steady and dependable nature. Arjun and Aditi met for the first time in 2011 during a professional project. Arjun was overseeing the construction of a high-end residential complex, while Aditi had been hired as a freelance designer to create the promotional materials for the project. Their initial interactions were purely professional, but they soon began to share personal stories and found common ground. Arjun was drawn to Aditi's passion for her work and her infectious energy, while Aditi found Arjun's calm, steady demeanor refreshing in the fast-paced world of Mumbai. Over time, their professional relationship blossomed into a friendship. They started spending more time together outside of work, enjoying each other's company and learning about their different worlds. Despite their contrasting personalities, they found a sense of balance in each other. Arjun provided the stability that Aditi often craved in her chaotic life, while Aditi introduced Arjun to new perspectives and experiences. Their friendship eventually grew into a romantic relationship, with both believing they had found something special in one another. After dating for more than a year, Arjun decided to propose to Aditi in 2012. He carefully planned the proposal, knowing that Aditi wasn't someone who enjoyed flashy or grand gestures. Instead, he opted for a quiet, intimate moment, choosing a spot that held sentimental value for both of them. Aditi accepted his proposal, and the two began planning their future together. Their wedding was a modest affair, attended by close family and friends. Aditi's family was pleased with the match, as they saw Arjun as a responsible and caring partner for their daughter. Once married, Arjun and Aditi settled into a comfortable life in Mumbai. Arjun continued his work in the construction industry, climbing the corporate ladder, while Aditi maintained her freelance career. They enjoyed a relatively peaceful marriage, with both supporting each other's careers and goals. Arjun loved Aditi deeply, and though Aditi appreciated the stability Arjun provided, she sometimes felt that something was missing. Over time, the predictability of their life together began to weigh on her, and she quietly wondered if she had made the right choices. However, Aditi never expressed these feelings to Arjun, not wanting to hurt him or disrupt the life they had built together. Their marriage, while stable on the surface, would soon face challenges that neither of them could have anticipated, especially with the unexpected reappearance of someone from Aditi's past. Rohan Mehra, a name that was once just a memory from Aditi's past, suddenly resurfaced in her life. Rohan had been Aditi's first love, someone she had dated during her college days. They shared an intense but short-lived relationship that ended when Aditi moved to Mumbai to pursue her career. While Rohan was charming and passionate, their relationship had been turbulent, filled with highs and lows. After their breakup, they lost contact, and Aditi eventually moved on, meeting Arjun and starting a new life. Years later, Rohan re-entered Aditi's world. He had become a successful entrepreneur, running a digital marketing agency in Delhi. His career had taken off, and he was now traveling frequently, including to Mumbai. It was during one of his business trips that Rohan reached out to Aditi. He was curious to see how she was doing and suggested meeting up for coffee to catch up. Initially hesitant, Aditi agreed, thinking it was just a casual reunion between old friends. When Aditi met Rohan again, memories from the past came flooding back. He still had the same charismatic presence, and their conversation flowed easily. Rohan expressed regret about how things had ended between them and hinted that he had never truly gotten over her. This revelation unsettled Aditi, but she brushed it off, reminding herself that she was married to Arjun and committed to their life together. However, as they continued to stay in touch, Aditi found herself increasingly drawn to Rohan's energy and the sense of adventure he represented, something she had been missing in her stable yet predictable marriage with Arjun. As Aditi and Rohan's meetings became more frequent, Aditi began to feel conflicted. On one hand, she loved Arjun and the life they had built together. Arjun had always been her rock, supporting her both emotionally and financially as she navigated her career. He was reliable and caring, qualities that had drawn her to him in the first place. However, on the other hand, Rohan's reappearance had rekindled old feelings and made her question whether she had settled too soon. Aditi kept her meetings with Rohan a secret from Arjun, not wanting to complicate things. But the guilt began to weigh heavily on her. She found herself thinking about Rohan more often than she wanted to admit, and her behavior at home started to change. Arjun, though initially oblivious, eventually noticed Aditi's growing distance. She was less communicative, often distracted, and seemed emotionally detached. Their once strong bond began to show cracks, and Arjun couldn't understand why. Meanwhile, Rohan wasn't shy about expressing his lingering feelings for Aditi. He told her that he still loved her and believed they were meant to be together. He reminded her of the excitement they had shared and the dreams they once had. Aditi was torn between her loyalty to Arjun and the unresolved feelings she had for Rohan. This internal struggle caused her immense emotional turmoil, which she tried to hide from both men. As the tension between Aditi's past and present grew, she knew she had to make a decision. She couldn't continue living in two worlds, one with Arjun and the other with Rohan. The guilt was eating away at her, and she felt trapped in her own mind. After much reflection, Aditi decided that she needed some space to think. She told Arjun that she wanted to go on a solo trip to clear her head and reconnect with herself. Arjun, though concerned, agreed, believing that Aditi just needed some time away from the stresses of work. Unbeknownst to Arjun, Aditi had planned to meet Rohan during this trip. She wanted to see if her feelings for him were real or if they were simply a result of nostalgia. Aditi hoped that this trip would give her the clarity she desperately needed. She met Rohan at a remote cabin in the mountains, where they spent several days together talking about their past, their current lives, and their possible future. During this time, Aditi realized that while she still had feelings for Rohan, they were largely tied to the past. The passion and excitement they had once shared couldn't be easily rekindled. Aditi also recognized that her love for Arjun, though quieter and less intense, was deeper and more meaningful. She decided that she couldn't betray Arjun's trust and that she wanted to work on their marriage instead of pursuing a relationship with Rohan. When Aditi returned from her trip, she was determined to refocus on her marriage with Arjun. She was ready to put Rohan behind her and move forward with her life. However, things didn't go as planned. Rohan, unwilling to let Aditi go, showed up at their home in Mumbai one evening. Arjun was home at the time, and the confrontation between the three of them was inevitable. Rohan demanded that Aditi leave Arjun and be with him, while Arjun, confused and hurt, demanded answers. Aditi found herself caught in the middle of an emotional storm. She tried to explain that she had made her decision and wanted to stay with Arjun, but Rohan refused to accept it. The argument escalated, with Rohan accusing Aditi of leading him on and Arjun accusing her of betraying his trust. The situation became chaotic, and Aditi felt like her world was falling apart. In the heat of the moment, Rohan revealed the extent of their relationship, something Aditi had tried to downplay. Arjun, feeling utterly betrayed, left the house in a rage. Aditi was left to deal with the aftermath of the confrontation, unsure if her marriage could survive the fallout. In an attempt to salvage their marriage, Arjun and Aditi decided to go on a camping trip with their close friends to Jim Corbett Forest. Arjun thought that getting away from the city and reconnecting with nature might help them heal. The group included their friends Rohan, Riya, and several others who had no idea about the tension between Arjun, Aditi, and Rohan. The trip started out peaceful, with the group enjoying the beauty of the forest and the excitement of being in the wild. However, the underlying tension between the three of them was palpable. Arjun was still hurt and angry, Rohan continued to pursue Aditi, and Aditi was struggling to keep everything from unraveling. The other friends noticed the strange dynamics, but didn't know the full story. On the final night of the trip, things took a dark turn. After a tense dinner around the campfire, Arjun and Rohan got into a heated argument. Words were exchanged and tempers flared. That night, after everyone had gone to sleep, Aditi was found dead in her tent, brutally murdered. The discovery of Aditi's body sent shockwaves through the group of friends, and soon, the authorities arrived to investigate the murder. The camping trip had taken a dark turn that none of them could have predicted. The police cordoned off the campsite and began their inquiry, questioning each of the friends who had been present. As Aditi's husband, Arjun was naturally their first suspect. His volatile emotions and the strained state of his marriage were clear indicators of possible motives, especially given that everyone knew about the recent tension between Arjun and Aditi. The police found traces of a struggle near Aditi's tent, but no definitive clues about the murderer. While everyone was devastated, suspicion started circulating within the group, and each person became wary of the other. Riya, who had always been close to Aditi, was in complete shock, unable to comprehend who could have committed such a heinous act. Rohan was also questioned extensively. His previous romantic involvement with Aditi, coupled with his recent attempts to rekindle their relationship, painted him in a suspicious light. Although Rohan tried to portray himself as the victim of unrequited love, the police had reason to doubt his innocence. Rohan claimed he had nothing to do with Aditi's death and suggested that Arjun's jealousy might have driven him to commit the murder. The investigation dragged on for days, but the lack of solid evidence meant no immediate arrests were made. However, the police became increasingly focused on Arjun and Rohan, believing that the answer lay within their strained relationship with Aditi. As the investigation continued, hidden aspects of Aditi's life began to emerge, complicating the case further. Aditi, it turned out, had been living with more secrets than anyone had realized. While her relationship with Arjun had seemed steady from the outside, her feelings of dissatisfaction had grown over the years. She had confided in Riya about feeling trapped and unfulfilled, leading her to reconnect with Rohan. However, Aditi's connection to Rohan was not the only secret she had kept from Arjun. The police uncovered several messages and emails exchanged between Aditi and a mysterious individual who was not part of their immediate friend circle. These messages suggested that Aditi had been exploring the idea of leaving her current life altogether, her marriage, her career, and even her friends, to start over in a different city. This revelation shifted the investigation's focus once again, as the possibility of another party being involved in her murder grew stronger. Additionally, a forensic report indicated that Aditi had been drugged before she was killed, which pointed to premeditation rather than a crime of passion. This added a new layer of complexity to the investigation, making it clear that someone had planned her murder well in advance. Arjun and Rohan continued to be key suspects, but with this new information, the police had to broaden their search for the truth. Riya, who had been closest to Aditi in the final months of her life, was also questioned more thoroughly. She revealed that Aditi had been grappling with deep emotional conflicts about her life choices. Aditi had confided in her about the pressure she felt to stay in a stable relationship with Arjun, despite being unsure of her feelings for him. The investigators also considered the possibility that Riya might know more than she was letting on, though they had no concrete evidence to support this suspicion. As secrets continued to unravel, the case became increasingly murky. Everyone close to Aditi seemed to have something to hide, and the police were left with more questions than answers. Meanwhile, Arjun and Rohan's rivalry intensified, each pointing the finger at the other, as both men tried to defend their innocence. As the investigation progressed, the police finally uncovered a breakthrough that turned the entire case upside down. A hidden diary was found in Aditi's belongings, one that shed light on her internal struggles, relationships, and her complex emotional state leading up to her death. The entries revealed a much deeper, more intricate side of Aditi's life, her unhappiness, her affairs, and her growing desire to escape. The diary confirmed that Aditi had been emotionally involved with Rohan, but it also hinted at something far more shocking. Aditi had been planning to leave both Arjun and Rohan behind, seeking a completely fresh start elsewhere. She had felt trapped between two men who both wanted her but could not understand her true desires. Aditi was tired of being seen as someone to be possessed, rather than as an independent person. But the biggest revelation came in the final entries. Aditi had recently been meeting someone else, an unknown third person whose identity was carefully obscured in the diary. This mysterious person had promised her a new life, free from the complications of her existing relationships. Aditi had grown increasingly dependent on this person, both emotionally and mentally, seeing them as her ticket out of her turbulent situation. The police were now faced with the possibility that this unknown individual could be the real mastermind behind Aditi's murder. The discovery of these entries intensified their efforts to track down this person, especially since it seemed that Aditi had trusted them implicitly, perhaps too much. With the revelation of the diary, Arjun and Rohan found themselves at a crossroads. Each of them had believed, in their own way, that they were the most important person in Aditi's life. The discovery that she had planned to leave both of them, and that she had been involved with someone else, crushed their perception of her and of themselves. Arjun, devastated by this betrayal, lashed out in anger, while Rohan spiraled into confusion, grappling with the reality that his hopes of rekindling his romance with Aditi had been nothing more than a fantasy. The police continued their investigation, now focused on identifying Aditi's secret lover. As more evidence came to light, they were able to track down the mysterious individual. To everyone's shock, it was not someone from Aditi's current social circle. It was a person she had met online, a person who had been manipulating her emotions and feeding her false promises of escape. This person, let's call him Raj, was a master of psychological manipulation. He had preyed on Aditi's vulnerability, convincing her that her only way out was through him. Aditi had planned to meet him the night of her murder, hoping to finally break free from her complicated life. But Raj had no intention of letting Aditi go free. He had been using her for his own gain, and when she became too much of a burden, he decided to eliminate her. Raj had arrived at the campsite that night, drugged Aditi, and then staged the scene to look like an argument or a struggle had taken place. His intention was to frame either Arjun or Rohan, knowing full well that their personal histories with Aditi would make them the prime suspects. With Raj's arrest, the truth finally came to light. The police presented undeniable evidence that Raj had planned and executed the murder, manipulating Aditi and using her emotional vulnerability to his advantage. The friends, once so sure that one of their own was responsible, were left reeling from the shocking turn of events. Arjun, Rohan, and Riya were forced to confront their own roles in Aditi's life and how their actions had contributed to her emotional turmoil. Arjun, who had always been possessive, realized how much he had failed to truly understand Aditi's needs. Rohan, who had believed in rekindling an old romance, came to terms with the fact that his feelings had been one-sided, and Riya, Aditi's closest confidant, struggled with guilt for not doing more to help Aditi escape her downward spiral. As the dust settled, justice was served, but the emotional scars left behind were deep and long-lasting. Aditi's death had shattered the lives of everyone around her, and while the true murderer was in custody, the friends were left to pick up the pieces of their broken relationships and figure out how to move on from the tragedy that had unfolded before them. In the end, Aditi's story became a cautionary tale about the dangers of emotional manipulation and the devastating consequences that can arise when unresolved feelings, secrets, and toxic relationships are left unchecked. The friends vowed never to let their connections deteriorate to the point where tragedy could strike again, but the memory of that night would forever haunt them.